Hello, YouTube and Whooper Club fans. I'm the coach of the Route 1 Birbs, Michael, aka Fruit Taco, here with Chad, the coach of the Seattle Steamrollers, co-hosting another match for you. Thanks for joining me again, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This season, the league was split into two conferences, and this time we've got the finals of the Johto Conference with my own third-seeded Route 1 Birbs going up against fellow channel host Illogic and his number one seeded Buffalo Bouffalant for a spot in the championship match. We played all the way back in Week 3 where he took a thorough loss. Can I pull off the upset this time for a shot at my third back-to-back championship? Well, let's get into it and find out. The Bouffalant have Talonflame, Lycanroc Dusk, Garchomp who cannot Terra, Arcanine, Gholdengo, Slitherwing, Toxtricity, Wo-Chien, Azumarill, Gastrodon, and Avalugg. I'll be going up against them with Chien-Pao who cannot Terra, Hawlucha, Iron Moth, Salamence, Lucario, Gardevoir, Florges, Magnezone, Electros, Tinglu, and Slowbro. Checking out the speeds of each team, I'd say we're actually pretty evenly matched. I've got the first and third fastest Mons, as well as one tied for fourth fastest. The Bouffalant have a lot of great priority, though, so I think that puts them at least on even, if not ahead of me, in terms of speed. Bouffalant really have some crazy good Pokemon in this matchup. My team is weak to Fairy, with poor resistances to Ghost, Rock, and Water. Azumarill is just a massive problem for me, as it easily threatens my top 3 offensive threats while tearing through the rest of my team. Similarly, Lycanroc can shred through most of my team, and Gholdengo is quite strong too, not to mention Arcanine's Intimidate and Burns shutting down my physical attackers. Any particular standouts from the Bouffalant's roster that you see, Chad?
Not really. I think just comparing the teams, I would say that I think the Bouffant's team is maybe a little more balanced than your team. Like I think your team has like it was kind of a running joke all season. Like, hey, we know what 5 of your
Yup.
Pokemon are gonna be that you bring. But I really feel like the Bouffalant's team is very balanced. I think actually I was kind of helping Nate prep a little bit for this, and I had some kind of ideas about what to bring that was different than his team, and I think it really kind of stands credit that like he has such strong standouts. Like, I think he has a really great or a lot of really great Chien-Pao counters. Like I think Azumarill is pretty much like about as good of a Chien-Pao counter as you can get. I think Gastrodon is very good defensively. I think Toxtricity has been very strong all season with a very strong boom burst. I think Wo-Chien has kind of been a bit of a sleeper pick. Yes, you kind of need to Terra to get it to have a good defensive typing, but if you're willing to spend your Terra on that, it has the crazy stats to back it up and a great move pool.
Mm-hmm. I agree with all of that. So, what do I think looks good for myself here, though? The Bouffalant are weak to ground, with relatively unresisted Dragon, Ghost, Psychic, and Water. Unfortunately, I can't really target a bunch of those directly, so, like you alluded to, I'm just relying on my usual good stuff approach. Chien-Pao is super strong with super effective attacks for some key mons and strong priority. Iron Moth's speed and coverage should let it threaten a lot of things, and Salamence could go on a tear with the Dragon Dance set. Round that out with Tinglu and Slowbro for defensive walling, and slap on a 6th Pokemon. Electros and Magnezone didn't have a lot going for them here, and I'm scared to give Nate free turns with something as passive as Florges. Gardevoir is too frail for the onslaught of priority, so that leaves Hawlucha and Lucario, who have useful speed and priority respectively, but I don't think either look amazing here. I'll leave who I brought a secret for now, but Chad, who on my team looks good to you in this matchup?
Well, I think your team has really stood out to me. And maybe this is just kind of how it was effective against me. I think you really have the right balance between the walls and the effective cleaning mons.
Uh-huh.
Like I think based on your play style, which I've probably spent more time looking at your play style than anybody else's this season, just because I don't think I've really had a serious match versus Nate, who would probably be the other person I would put that much time into preparing for. Um, I I think you usually tend to go kind of like some sort of offensive mon earlier to kind of do a breaker, and then you have your walls that you like pivoting around in the middle, like like Slowbro or Tingler, which I think are both very good. And then you go for a sweep at the end. I think the Salamence is really good. I honestly, if I could do it over again, I would probably take Salamence over Dragonite just because I think the Terra option is so good on it, and it has the reliable flying stab and dual wing beat, and it also
Hmm.
has the usable special attack stat.
Yeah. Well, with that out of the way, let's see what actually came into the match and see what we think, how they're gonna stack up against each other. And my cat is absolutely going crazy in the background if you can hear that.
No, I can't hear it.
Alright, well, moving on. First up for the Bouffalant is Max HP, Max Special Attack, Modest Goldengo with an Aqua Berry. Shadow Ball and Make It Rain are good stabs, with Terra Fairy boosted Dazzling Gleams and Nasty Plot to boost everything. I think offensively this set looks great. Most of the mons that really threaten it outspeed it naturally, so I like just investing in the bulk here. Pretty much my only issue is the item. I have a lot of options to threaten this, so the Akaberry is maybe a little too situational, especially seeing as Shadow Ball only does about half back to offensive Iron Moth. I think Scarfed Goldingo would have been great, but on this bulky set, maybe just lefties would provide more guaranteed value. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things, I guess one criticism I might have of Nate is I feel like he can go a little niche with his preparation. I think he can lean on the berries a little too much. But like, I mean, I think it's definitely a useful set. You know, like it's
Oh
still
yeah.
like I think Golden Go is good defensively. I think it may be a little weak against your top fast threats. You know, in Iron Moth and Chien-Pao, which are almost certainly coming. But I think it could get a lot of free switching opportunities versus maybe specifically Slowbro to get a good get a good hit off on something
Yeah.
and is also a good spin blocker. So I guess one thing I will note about your team is that I think you have relatively poor hazard removal options. I don't even know if you want to
Hawlucha is
put.
my only remover.
Yeah, so I think he might be going for sort of like a spin blocking approach here. Like if you look at I think Golden is kind of the ultimate sort of spin blocker, or like not that he has like a ton of hazard options, but I do think that a stealth rock would be very good versus you just based on your mons.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Goldengo looks great, yeah, but I guess, I said lefties, but really, I think over the Akaberry, just like Colbur to just tank and murder Chien Pao, I think would have been the
Yeah.
resist berry I'd expect. But next up is Garchomp with max attack Adam and a choice scarf with enough speed to outspeed Chien Pao, and the rest goes into additional bulk. I haven't favored my dragon resists, so Outrage should go hard with Earthquake for any steals I do bring. Brick Break Oko's Chien Pao through any investment, and with all those attacks really being all it needs, well, Stealth Rock rounds out the set. Only thing I'm not sold on here is the speed investment. I get that priority is priority, and Adamant Chomp would never outspeed Scarfed Moth, which is my best Scarfer, but Dragon Dance Salamence is so scary, and I have liked it a lot that I might have just run more investment just for that. What are your thoughts on that, Chad?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I really feel like, like what are you really getting with 128 HP? You know, I'm sure you can pull up some, BGC calcs or whatever and talk about how you can live an extra hit and blah 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 blah. But like chip damage is a thing. Like I think a lot of people do calcs assuming they're going to be at 100% health, which is somewhat rarely the case.
Mm-hmm.
And like the 102 speed versus the 100, I think the odds of that coming up are a lot more than the odds of 128 HP being useful. That being said, maybe I do like Adamant. I think Adamant is nice. You get that extra power, but even ignoring the Dragon Dance thing, I think you may have run Scarf Salamence a couple times, and Salamence
Yep.
is certainly a viable choice Scarf user, especially with Moxie.
Oh, definitely. Well, next up is Azumarill with max attack Adamant, a little speed to outcreep Electros, and the rest in HP. Play Rough and Terra boosted Aqua Jet are all the damaging moves it needs, really, with Belly Drum proccing at the Citrus Berry and turning this into an absolute demon. Encore is interesting in the last slot to catch my most probable defensive answer, Slowbro, on a Slack Off or something passive and then just safely drum up. Honestly, this thing is just such a threat, I don't know what passive moves I'd really be clicking in front of it to get encored into, but I mean, really, the first three moves are enough, so that whatever you put in that fourth move slot is probably fine. What do you think about Azu here?
Yeah, I actually like this set a lot. I'm probably a bit more in favor of the Encore than and maybe you are. Like I think it's useful versus your walls like Slowbro and Tinglu. I mean, even if you get a free switch in on them, you can maybe Encore and then set up or something. Like I think you can maybe look at some additional water coverage as being useful, like maybe some neutral water hits. But I think Aqua Jet's very strong anyways, and Stab Play Rough is pretty solid neutral coverage against like anything that you wouldn't want to Aqua Jet, like Salamence or whatever. I definitely really like this set. I think it's a great potential win con for them though.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Yeah, the fourth move, I think Encore is fine, and like looking at the moves it could get, like the only thing I could think of is like, I don't know, Bulldoze for Magnezone specifically, but like, yeah, I mean, really, the first three are all you need, so whatever you plan to do with the fourth move, it's just whatever feels good.
Yep.
Finally, we get some real defense on the team here, though, with max HP and physical defense Wo Chien. Body Press takes advantage of that defense and hits useful weaknesses, with Ruination being useful all around, Dark Pulse letting it beat Slowbro, and the spice of the set, Terra Rock Terra Blast, providing great coverage. This makes it suddenly a counter to Chien Pao, Salamence, and Iron Moth all in one, who probably all thought they were getting the advantage in the matchup, and easily letting it do at least half to all of them. I don't have anything bad to say about this set. It's unfortunate that going physically defensive means he doesn't have a great Iron Moth wall, but I think it's totally worth it. What do you think about this set here?
Yeah, I think it's a very good set. I totally get the coverage options. I guess my only concern with it would be I think Rock is a somewhat questionable defensive typing, and not having the lead sheet for recovery. But I think talking to Nate before this match, he was planning on playing it kind of fast, so I think it makes sense to not really focus on recovery too much. And then you have the classic Ruination, which is always a Nate favorite. Those 50% HP moves. So.
Yep, I Ruination as I never really used to think about the 50% having moves, but like Tinglu with Ruination has been I have a newfound appreciation for them this season.
Mhm.
Back to offense we go, though, with max HP, max special attack, modest toxicity, with choice specs to be an absolute monster. Punk Rock and Terra Normal boosted Boomburst cleanly two-shot even max HP special defense Tinglu, and it destroys absolutely anything else, with Volt Switch for momentum and Overdrive and Sludge Bomb as other offensive options in case Terra or something else would stop Boomburst. I like the bulk since the only things that outspeed it are bulky and likely also not running speed. Sorry, the only things that it outspeeds are bulky and probably don't have any speed of their own. My only concern here is maybe Sludge Bomb. Really, the only thing Sludge Bomb is better than Boomburst or Overdrive into is Florges or a Terra Fairy Pokemon, which honestly get at worst two-shot by Boomburst anyway. So I think maybe like Toxic, Thunder Wave, or Taunt to provide some versatility would have been my call there. In all honesty, though, this thing should probably click Boomburst at least 90% of the time anyway, so that's not a big deal. What are your thoughts on the Tox here?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much going to be Volt Switch or Boom Burst. That's a pretty classic Toxtricity. I think it kind of stands out along with Wo-Chien is the other obvious potential Terra user. I think its speed might be holding it back a little bit though. I think if I would have left any of the Pokemon that Nate brought, I would have maybe left the Toxtricity. I think he has some other like potentially excellent speed control options like Talonflame or even Arcanine with extreme speed is kind of a bulky
Mm-hmm.
pivot sort of thing. I I could see it to get through the walls, but like I don't know. I mean, like I guess I see it as like it's good versus Slowbro. Like that's what I look at it as being good for. Like it's good if it gets a free hit off, but I don't. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it would get a free hit off of besides
Mm-hmm.
Slowbro necessarily on your team. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, with the max HP there, I mean, maybe he's just thinking, like he lives a hit, and just, essentially trades up.
yeah, yeah.
But which, yeah, no, I mean, Punk Rock Boomburst is disgusting, so we'll see what it can do. And last up is Lycanroc with max attack, max speed, Jolly to speed tie Iron Moth, Choice Band rounding out the trio of choice items on the team, powering up Stone Edge and Accelerock Stab, with Terra Fighting boosted close combat and Crunch as coverage. I think this set is plenty strong, but personally, I'm not fully sold on the Choice Band. I think Lycanroc's strength in the matchup is its ability to threaten all of my rock switch-ins with coverage, which the band loses out on in exchange for power. I could have seen something like Swords Dance and a Resist Berry or a Focus Sash, but this is by no means a bad set and should be very scary late game, or really anytime it comes in, as it's one prediction away from getting a KO on basically anything. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, I was talking to Nate about this, and I could definitely see a Life Orb set too. I mean, for me, like Life Orb isn't even really about the power. It's just the chip damage is really bad with the Life Orb.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would maybe have a hard time setting up with SD, which I could see being a problem because, like, I guess like I feel like you're forced to make a prediction either way. Like you're forced to either SD on a prediction switch out or you're forced to have your choice band and predict what he's
Sure,
going to switch
sure.
into or not switch into. So I think it's kind of pick your poison. I would agree that I think the team is maybe a little bit choice heavy with three, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. But I do know that I've sometimes found myself in the trap of, well, what's the big deal if you use a choice item? You just got to predict right. You know what I mean? Like just predict right and it fixes all your problems. But like
Yeah.
the reality is that you're not going to predict right 100% of the time, so it can be a bit limiting.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the specs on Toxtricity, I'm definitely behind. Scarf on Chomp, I don't think is bad. Band on Lycanroc isn't bad, but yeah, it's just I definitely will get into what I'm bringing here, but I think it'll be a pretty quick match either way because someone's answers and threats are just going to well, someone's just gonna lose them, and it's probably just gonna be cleanup from there.
Yep, I
All right,
agree.
but let's see what I am actually bringing here. First up for my team, I went with Max Speed and Special Attack Timid Iron Moth with some choice specs. Energy Ball destroys Azumarill, Gastrodon, and Lycanroc, even without the Terra Grass boost, which is mostly there to actually resist ground and water attacks while removing the rock weakness. Overheat is my fire move as choice, as I wanted Powerful Stab that would cook even bulky weaknesses and neutral mons while still chunking resists. Dazzling Gleam is mostly to hit Garchomp, but also some other nice weaknesses, and U-turn is for pivoting. What do you think of my wall-breaking Moth here?
I think it's very good. I think it's a compelling speed tier. I think like based on how Nate's played, I don't know if he's necessarily played with a lot of recovery. So I think the wall breaking is a good set. I think it's a very standard set. I don't really have too much to say. Like a great choice spec set. You always love the click a button, kill things.
Yep,
So
that's what it's here for. Next up is something I tried in my last match against you and the Steamrollers, Assault Vest Offensive Ting Lu. Max Attack Adamant lets this thing hit hard with hefty HP investment and enough speed to outspeed 12 EV Azumarill. Earthquake hits several Pokemon super effectively, while Stone Edge hits the resists, Ruination is reliable damage, and Facade is a contingency for if I get burned from something like Arcanine or Talonflame. Terra Water provides a nice defensive type, and that covers this Ting Lu set. I lose the residual damage of hazards, but gain something that can still take tons of hits while surprising my opponent with strong attacks. What do you think of the set here?
I guess like this is maybe a mechanics question, just so I'm not talking on my butt.
Sure.
So when you use facade, do you still get the half burn? Like so I know it's 140 base power, but is it like really still like 70 base power because you're burned, or is it actually 140 base power and you don't like the burn doesn't matter at all?
That's a good question. I think it doesn't factor in the burn. Um, you
Okay, because
know?
like I guess that was the first thing I thought of when I saw this because like if it doesn't factor in the burn, I could definitely see it. And I mean, I guess neutrals like I'm looking at his team right now. I guess neutrals relatively. Wait, actually, let me see. I'm looking at the wrong team. I'm looking at your team. Yeah, I guess neutrals relatively, or sorry, normal is relatively good coverage. It just I it
Yep,
seems a
no.
little.
I just checked. It does ignore the drop from burn.
Oh, okay. Yep. Then I 100% stand behind that.
There
Ignores
we
drop
go.
from burn. That's great. Yeah. And then you have the Edgequake covers Ruination. So yeah, overall, think it's a good set. I guess maybe I would have got a little more meta about speed creeping. I think like I mean, this is maybe hindsight is 2020. Looking at Nate's team, I
Oh
think he
yeah.
ran a little bit more than 12 speed EVs, but it's kind of nitpicky. Like I don't think it's gonna
Yeah,
ruin it
no,
one
I
way or the
mean, I
other.
think part of it was like I was looking at Azumarill and I wasn't really sure what it was going to try to speed creep. I didn't see any like really
Mhm.
big obvious targets for it, so I was like, oh, I'll probably just go mostly max HP. Definitely, yeah, hindsight's 2020, probably a bit of a hard read I didn't need to make on the team building there, but yeah,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, I guess my point of view would be you might die to Aquajet anyways, but it's yeah, like it's 56 EVs are not going to make or break anything. So
Yep. Well, up next is my surprise sixth Pokemon, Lucario. It's running max attack and speed Jolly with a Focus Sash as a dedicated lead. This set actually came about when I was looking at Magnezone, checking if it learns Metal Burst. It doesn't. And I got curious and started looking at who on my team learns Counter. started thinking about it, and as I kept thinking about it, this set eventually came into being, and I started to like it the more I thought about it. This is a dedicated lead aiming to get big damage off on whatever lead comes out. Counter should KO key physical threats like Slither, Chomp, or Azu, while close combat chunks Wo-Chien, Lycanroc, or Avalugg. Crunch smacks Goldango, and Extreme Speed is just useful as a follow-up hit or a late-game utility option if Lucario happens to stick around, potentially boosted by that Terra Normal. This is probably the most niche set I'm bringing this week, so what do you think of it here?
I think it's a very used set. I think it's a risk it for the biscuit set. Like I'm just
Yep.
gonna put it like I think you've definitely had the niche dedicated leads this season. I'm definitely thinking of your Halucha sets that you've ran. I know there was at least one that was a kind of a pretty
Yeah.
interesting Swords Dance set. I I think it's a good call, especially because I don't want to call your 6 mon filler, but I think your 6 mon is
Oh,
definitely like the
100%.
options you have for the 6 mon is not as compelling as your 5 standard mons. I I like it as a lead. I like the idea of counter, maybe extreme speed for chip, and then just die. I think it's a good use. I think it definitely relies on lead matchup, but if you're in the conference finals, sometimes you got to have a couple things go your way to get things to work out. So
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, like you said, like, I don't want to call it filler, but the thing about, like when team building, I always want to make sure I have a clear reason that I am bringing Pokemon, whether it's, just like Chien Pao is, just like here for, big consistent damage, and looking at the sixth Mon this week, looking at all the other options, I just couldn't latch on to any ideas of like, all right, well, here's why I'm bringing this Pokemon until I found counter on Lucario, and I don't know, I just went down the rabbit hole, and I like what I came up with.
yeah.
But back to the staples of the team, it is Chien Pao with max attack Adamant to outspeed Lycanroc and also Adamant Talonflame for good measure. Ice Spinner and Crunch are spammable stab with Sucker Punch to hit Scarfers or hit opposing priority, and again, Facade is a contingency in case I somehow get burned. Don't think there's much to say here, just straightforward Chien Pao, who I don't think has a great matchup, so it's looking to just get consistent damage, an Ice Spinner on Wo-Chien or Garchomp, a Crunch on Goldango, and just chip on Azu, who's probably just going to keep switching into it time and time again. Any changes you'd make to this set here?
Yeah, well, so I guess this is more a question. Like, is there a particular reason you did Ice Spinner over Icicle Crash? Just the accuracy, or
Just
were you
accuracy.
worried about terrain at all? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And then I guess I would have maybe viewed Ice Shard as a little more reliable priority than Sucker Punch, just from a skimming looking at, especially with like the Garchomp. And I don't think Azumarill is. I think Azumarill is a good counter, but it's not a perfect counter. Like I'm
Yeah.
sure it doesn't take those hits incredibly well. Like you get one, maybe two switch ins, if you're lucky, especially depending on the set. Like we saw it was a belly drum set. But I think the Facade is interesting for neutral coverage. I would have maybe run Ice Shard, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I just got to prick right with my Sucker Punches. Maybe that's some low energy thoughts. But
Yeah, no, the Facade is probably unnecessary here over like even just like Ruination or something. Probably,
Mhm.
hindsight would be better there. I think I went Sucker Punch over Ice Shard, just for one stronger anti-priority into like Azu, even though Ice Shard and Sucker are both resisted, but mostly for Lycanroc, because Sucker Punch does like 80%
Mhm.
to uninvested Lycanroc. So just especially because like that is so scary for Moth and Men, so I expected to do a lot more work
Mhm.
than Chien Pao here. I think that's why I went for that. Also, potentially Scarf Goldango, I think.
Yep. Oh yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. Well, switching back to defense is max defense, almost max HP Slowbro with just a couple speedy Vs in case Avalugg happens to come and happens to want to outspeed me. I don't know. Berry lets Bro take a Shadow Ball and potentially finish off a weakened Goldengo with Flamethrower, which also hits Avalugg and Wo-Chien. Psyshock is to hit Slither on the switch-in, as well as be stronger against a Special Wall or Water Resists, with Surf hitting the Fire and Rock types. And of course, it's got Slack Off along with a defensive Fairy Terra type if it ever needs to take a Dark or Bug type attack. This was the set I was probably least sure of as far as all the different coverage options I could have, like Ice Beam, Thunder Wave, or even Psychic Terrain to stop all that annoying priority I've been talking about. But I think I ended up with something just nice and reliable here. How would you have built Bro here?
Um, I definitely like the set. I think I maybe would have ran a Calm Mindset over this. I mean,
I
I don't
thought
know
about that
exactly what.
too.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what you would have missed out on coverage wise, but I feel like Slowbro is very very good defensively, and especially when you have the defensive Terra. Like I don't, you obviously have Salamence as a which we'll get into in a bit as a great setup option, but I could see Slowbro as being hey, like whatever can break it is dead, and then you just win sort of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought about Calm Mind. Yeah, I do lose out on some of the coverage. I also had thought about Amnesia, on
Mhm.
like Goldango switching in, and suddenly I have +2 special defense. Um,
That's pretty cool.
so
Yeah.
yeah, no, I definitely thought about that. But yeah, but then I just decided go reliable, more
Mhm.
coverage.
Yeah.
Um,
Can't wait for a special body press next generation. That would be
Yo,
pretty
special body
interesting.
press. And last but not least is Salamence running max attack Adamant and almost max speed to outspeed Arcanine with Boots and Intimidate, letting it get in safely. This was always going to be a sweeper set, so I considered Moxie, but went with reliable Intimidate to help against physical threats, as well as not reveal the set really when it switches in. If I send out Moxie, he's going to immediately be like, all right, well, this thing's setting up or scarfed or something and just trying to sweep. Intimidate, maybe I could be defensive, maybe I could be special, who knows. So, little bit there. Dragon Dance is, of course, the setup move with dual Wing Beat and Dragon Claw as very spammable stabs, and Earthquake as coverage to hit the several weaknesses hard, even without a dance up. Terra Steel is defensive type to let me resist a Fairy Dragon or Rock move while I dance up and then go for game. Another pretty straightforward set here. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely like it. I definitely like the Intimidate over Moxie. I feel like Moxie is one of those abilities where it always works better in your head than it does in practice. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I've ever had a Moxie sweep, or maybe once, where it like actually worked the way that I wanted it to. I think Moxie's better on Scarfers, honestly, because you can use them as like a Moxie Scarfer, you basically get
Yeah.
rid of their speed control and then you can win. I don't necessarily like Moxie as much on Dragon Dance sets. I mean, I don't know. Only thing is maybe I would have squeezed Roost on there, but I think that's a nitpicky comment. Obviously, all the coverage is nice, so that's about the only thing I would say about it.
All right. Well, that's what I'm bringing. Any thoughts you have on this team as a whole before we just dive into the match?
I mean, I think it's a good team. It has threatened. It has all its roles, Phil. You got your dedicated lead. You got your cleaner. You got your walls, and you got your two breakers, and so yeah, I think it's very balanced.
All right. Well, with that out of the way, let's hop into the match and see how it all went down. Okay, and well, here's the match. Here at Team Preview for the Buffalo, Azu, and Lycanroc go super hard, who'd have guessed? As for me, well, Azu is really the only thing stopping Mence from going in, and Moth should do some big damage too. I mostly am just worried about figuring out the Azu and Goldengo sets, as well as maybe an item on Lycanroc. For me, I already know Lucario is my dedicated lead and does well into basically anything except Toxtricity. For Bouffalant, Azu threatens literally everything, so maybe they just go Azu. What do you think about the situation here at Team Preview?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I think no reason to not lead Lucario. I would have maybe gone or I would maybe go Goldango or Toxtricity. For what it's worth, I'm personally awful at predicting leads.
Yeah.
I actually thought about only leading Noivern this season because I had to frisk, so I couldn't predict the item wrong. So you should definitely take my lead advice with a grain of salt. But I feel like Azumarill is very very critical in terms of like what it counters, like with
Yeah.
Shampoo and stuff. And I don't know if I would want to get chip damage on that early, especially because it's a Belladrum set. So I think Goldango or Toxtricity would be potentially decent, but who knows?
Sure. All right, well, we're going to see. I do lead my Lucario, and he goes out to Azu. Another reason might be that, if he was like predicting hazards from Ting Lu
Mhm.
early, and he just wanted to counter that with Azu. But him leading Azu here definitely I'm not that surprised, but it throws me off of his actual set because he leads here is like, oh, okay, well, he just set this out right away. There's no way this is a belly drum set. So I'm just like, all right, he's probably just like banded or something, which means he probably just sees like a free play rough, and I'll just click counter. Back in my mind, I'm like, all right, please don't click belly drum. But again, like you said, it's like, is he really just gonna let it take immediate chip before he tries to drum up? Maybe he has sub or something. But yeah, for Nate, this looks like the freest play rough of his life to me. Um, and so we'll see how it goes out. And he goes for the play rough. I go down to Sash, and bam, counter takes out Azu. Turn one, probably the biggest threat out of my hair. Goldango coming out here, and just like that, Mence looks absolutely insane, as does Qian Pao. I think
Yep.
Goldango is maybe an odd choice here going out.
Yeah, no, I think he was maybe trying to avoid the extreme speed chip. He probably just wants to to let the Lucario die. I can see that being his thought process. I bet that was one play rough that Nate was kind of wishing he missed in hindsight. You know,
Yeah.
Azumarill, pretty notorious for those 90% accurate moves. I definitely recognize that this could totally be some Monday morning quarterbacking, but I feel like the sash is pretty obvious on the lead Lucario. Like, I don't know if I would have predicted counter on that, but
Yeah.
I maybe would have gone Goldango there, like because I don't know. I guess like is is the Lucario gonna crunch your Goldango? Like I don't really think so, especially with the defensive set.
Yeah.
And you know you're immune to extreme speed. You're immune to the fighting stab. Um, and like I think that's probably maybe what you would have gone for. I definitely hindsight is 2020, so take it with a grain of salt. But like I don't know. Like I feel like I always get these feelings in my chest when like, oh, the lead is clearly Scarf or it's clearly a Sash lead, and I think that was kind of clearly a Sash lead. And even ignoring the counter thing, like I don't know. I don't. I talked to Nate after the match, and he said he didn't really have a good feeling about what to lead, so that was kind of why he let Azu. But I feel
Uh-huh.
like Azu was such a good win con that I definitely wouldn't have wanted that getting chip damage that early, even ignoring the whole counter thing.
Yeah, no, it definitely I was really excited to see that turn one because yeah, no, I mean like I said, like suddenly, that has opened up Mence and Qian Pao considerably.
Mhm.
As well as helps a little bit with Iron Moth. So yeah, he sends out Goldengo here. Like you're probably right. Just like trying to not take any extra priority damage. But I do have the crunch that I go for, get some real nice chip off on that, and Lucario goes down there. But I do see that there's no Scarf or Colberberry, which means this is super free Chien Pao. Um, yeah. Uh,
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think in hindsight, I definitely agree with that playlist. I didn't realize the speed tiers were like that. I guess for some reason I thought Golden Go instead.
oh no.
Um, yeah, so I actually, maybe he didn't think you had crunch as a coverage move.
I'm
I
guessing
guess
he was
crunch
probably
isn't.
just banking on that.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah,
All right. Well, Chien Pao is out here. I don't feel the need to overpredict on the Switch, so I just go for the crunch. Little surprised he sacked it, but with that chip, it got beat by so many things, and he still has Toxtricity for Bro. So, I mean, I'm not as surprised now. And of course, Liking Rock being out here is going to force me to make a play, whether or not I'm expecting an Accelerock or not.
yeah. I personally, I think if I was Nate here, I would go for a prediction. Like, I don't think I would necessarily go for the Accelerock, just because, I'm down. I gotta do something. I honestly don't remember what you do on this turn, so maybe going for a prediction is a bad decision. But if I was him, I'd probably go for a prediction here, like pick to switch out and maybe go for like CC or something or whatever.
Yep. Well, here, I switch out to Bro, and he actually makes a great double out here into Wochien. Sucker Punch could have done about like 80%, but I wanted to just go to Bro to scout, potentially see like banded damage or whatever. The double into Wo-Chien is so good, though, as cover. It covers my switch into Bro, which is obviously my defensive wall, or Ting-Lu, while also scouting for a priority move or play that might indicate that I was Sash. So that's great for him, but obviously I can't stay in on Wo-Chien with my Bro, so I'm gonna go out into Moth here. He misses the Ruination. Very unfortunate. You hit the play rough you don't want to hit, and you miss the Ruination you do want to hit.
Yeah, I would agree. Very unfortunate because I think he could definitely go for the Terra after this and go for the KO. I'd say that's a pretty big miss because I think either he has to kind of blow his Terra now without getting a KO, or he has to switch out, and I don't see a lot of good switch-ins for this.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure how big it is. We'll get into why later, but obviously, certainly in the moment at least, you don't want that. Moth here, can take a special attack. It can U-turn or it can overheat. So, I've got a couple of different options I can go for here, but I'm thinking that, overheat looks pretty strong here into no matter what comes, and it's doing at least half. Except he tears rock to resist it. I was not expecting it at all, and then the Terra Blast, there you can see, if the Ruination had hit, I would have gone down there, but it missed, and so I'm in here with a weakened Moth, and, well, I'm definitely not staying in here.
Yeah, I'd probably go for maybe a Ruination again if I was Nate. I think I don't know. I mean, honestly, Slowbro looks relatively okay because you got the water move. I don't, you can maybe go Champao because you don't care about taking the chip damage. I don't know. I'd maybe go Slowbro, but we'll see. I don't remember what you did.
Well, seeing that it's rock, I go to the other one. I go to Ting-Lu here, who then has to eat the Ruination. But, looking at this, EQ looks super free next turn. This is no longer a resist, it's a weakness. 3 Pokemon are weak, and the one who's not is Garchomp, who I'd love to get Chip on. So going into Ting-Lu here, just seems great.
Yeah, I agree.
I will, with the Ruination chip, though, I will need to watch out for Toxtricity, though, with my special wall getting so low. And we're going to see that Body Press does a fair amount, but EQ is going to do even more back. And here's what I was talking about with that Ruination miss. Yeah, Moth is still alive, but it also means that Ting-Lu had to take the Ruination, and I'm probably just going to have to let it go here. And I was just talking about, how good EQ looked. So I have the Moth, but I lose the Ting-Lu, who actually looks very strong here. So I'm not sure in the end how all that balances out. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. It definitely, I think it balanced out a little bit. I don't know. I didn't do the whole like decision tree analysis on it. I would say I think the Ting-Lu does look pretty strong. I think its speed might be holding it back a little bit. I think it will be very strong versus a Garchomp. I think it would been a great Garchomp counter. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I had alluded to, Ting-Lu's basically done at this point, so I just sack it. I could go Mence here, Terra and Dance to just straight out go for the game, but I am nervous about Sashes and such in the back, so I go Moth here. You can see that he's going to switch out to Toxtricity. Yeah, so I'm sending in Moth. I'm just like, all right, well, the only thing that wants to eat a hit is an Energy Ball is Toxtricity, and well, I'd love to start getting some chip on that.
Yeah. And I guess like I just want to really highlight like I think the Azumarill lead was like a pretty questionable play because I think Salamence like sweeps at +1 right now with like literally like nothing you can do about it. And like the way that I always look at teams is you got to set it up so your opponent can't sweep at +1. Like if your opponent gets to +2, you're just dumb. You made a mistake. Don't let your opponent get 2 setup turns. But you can't let your opponent sweep with 1 setup turn. And right now it's, it was probably true at like turn 8. It was turn 8 you could sweep with 1 setup turn, which I don't think that's a great position to be in.
Definitely like I was keeping that in the back of my head kind of the entire time. I was like, okay, it looks like Mence just sweeps, but Garchomp hasn't come out. Lycanroc hasn't stayed in and done anything. Is one of them scarfed? Do they have a sash? Do they have a resist berry or something? And it's like there are a lot of things that could stop a Ment Sweep, and
Hmm.
if that Ment Sweep is stopped, well, I start to run out of gas real fast. So I'm trying to stall it out a little bit, get a little bit more information before I'm kind of forced to go for that sweep.
Oh yeah, and I 100% agree with your strategy. I'm just talking about it from Nate's perspective.
Oh
Like
yeah,
my perspective with a sweeper is, I want all my other
definitely.
Pokemon dead before my sweeper comes out. I want to get I want to cover every possible focus sash contingency, every possible resist area contingency before risking my sweeper because like I think that's a really common mistake people make is bringing out their sweeper too early. So I 100% agree with you to not send it out too early. Yeah.
Yep. Well, we're going to see here. I go for the energy ball. The Toxtricity comes in and absolutely eats it up. I actually do a little bit of calcing wrong, and I think it's AV. The rolls on AV to and versus the max HP it has are actually fairly similar.
Mhm.
And I got one that definitely tells me it's not AV, but they were close enough that I was like, oh, I don't know, I think it's AV. So I'm like, all right, well, I go to Chien Pao, who is probably who is at like a 80% chance to live non-specs boom burst or something.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, I go Chien Pao, and of course the boom burst comes out, and I'm just dead. Uh,
Yep.
but but because I could have died to non-specs, I still think it's AV. And so after that, I see, okay, well, now I guess I need to go for game. Terra Steel on Ments should let me Dragon Dance on a Boom Burst. And yeah, with Chien Pao gone and Iron Moth chipped, well, yep, this is kind of I go for it, and either I win or I lose hard.
Yep. Gotta risk it for the biscuit.
Get the Intimidate there. Nate decides to preserve Toxtricity there, maybe for Slowbro. Although I think going for Boom Burst Chip might have been the better play. And yeah, that's just free Dragon Dance for me. I'm still worried about Scarves, Sashes, or Berries in the back, but hey, looking pretty good for me here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I would definitely be worried about I like I think if he had a better Garchomp set, or maybe more speed on the Garchomp set. I don't know if it
100%.
KOs, but it would that'd be a little concerning to me. But honestly, if I were you, I maybe would have just like sacked Slowbro and then try to kill it with Moth. But I guess then you're in kind of a bad position because you have your Moth out with like an overheat busted or something. So like I
Yeah.
don't think it's that bad, but yeah.
Yep. So turn 13 here, I make a mistake. I go for the EQ. I was just being lazy. I didn't calc and see how much body press did. I think body press did like 60%, something like
Hmm.
that. Which is like good damage, but specifically, like we were saying, if Nate was, max speed on this Scarf Chomp, then he'd actually outspeed me, and that really should have been just a free second Dragon Dance on the Body Press or Ruination or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so I definitely make a misplay there. But we
I
know,
mean,
yeah,
like I could see the argument though, right? So say you did Dragon Dance again, you got he body pressed you, you took 60%, then you attacked the Garchomp, you took Rocky Helmet Rough Skin, like say it was a Rocky Helmet set,
sure,
that's like an additional 30%. Then you could probably Accelerock you. And then he would have I think Toxtricity and Lycanroc, so you can maybe make something happen with that. So I mean, I don't. Maybe there was some way that didn't work out for him, but I don't think it's like I think there's other things he'd be worried about too besides just Scar.
I guess that's pretty fair. Um, And, well, we already know it doesn't outspeed me, so I just go for the Dragon Claw. Nate is kicking himself for not running more speed. Lycanroc comes out. Banded Accelerock still doing about a quarter to the resist, but EQ is going to close out the game for me with a pretty quick victory for me here, just 16 turns. Although, like I said, if Mence didn't sweep there, I was pretty much sunk.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely think it was a good match. It was a very fast match. I think in matches like these, you can like I really think the Azumarill lead was not a
Yeah.
great decision. Obviously hindsight is 2020, but like even like I said, even ignoring the whole like you had a dedicated lead that countered it sort of thing, like I think it was a pretty integral part of the strategy, especially like with how quick this match went, which I think the match would have went quick either way. Having those, oh, I get one switch in, like I get one switch in here to this Mon is like a really big deal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And yeah, I don't want to be too critical. Obviously, I think Nate did a very good job of making the match competitive. Like I think he
Hmm.
had a legitimate shot there if his Garchomp had more speed investment. But yeah, I think and like it is really hard to get leads right, but I think the lead was maybe the weakest part of the match.
Yeah, no, I definitely think, I mean, that was, turn one was definitely, I think, the most influential turn. It would have been interesting had those first two turns, gone differently, because I think Nate losing Azu and taking the chip on Goldengo really, I mean, it was going to be a fast match anyways, but I think that sped this up that much more, where Nate kind of had to make some offensive plays to get back in the game.
Hmm.
And I did stuff, like force like the early Terra on Wochien. Whereas if he, had the bulky Goldango, bulky Azu, Wochien didn't necessarily have to Terra there. And I would, I think we could have done a lot more pivoting and a lot more prediction based gameplay before we kind of got into this. Well, you just throw Mons into them and hope it works. And someone's gonna have Mons left standing at the end. So I think we really kind of accelerated it into this last stage where we were just kind of trading KOs. But it was a great match either way. I always love my matches against Nate.
Yep, but it's kind of interesting that the high level matches sometimes just go into the Mons go burr, and then whoever runs down
Yeah,
Mons first lose.
yeah.
So
I mean, especially on draft, so there's Terra helps, but there's
mhm.
always only so much you can do to deal with some mons.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you to my opponent for the great game. Thank you for co-hosting with me once again, and thank you to you at home for watching along with us here. This is the finals of the Johto conference. We'll have the finals of the Paldea conference up that you can go and check out our coverage of that. And, well, next time we're heading into the championship match where either I'm going for the three-peat or my opponent, the Noctiles, are going for the ever-elusive perfect season. What do you think about that match coming up there?
Yeah, well, I have mixed feelings about it because I had a potential perfect season that Elf Owls kind of put a pin in the finals, and then you're going for a three-peat, having knocked me out of the playoffs the last three seasons in a row. But I don't know. I think it'll be a very good match. I think it's congratulations again on making it all the way to the finals, and I think it's really impressive. Especially, I think you had a bit of a slow start to the season, but you definitely really came through in the end and delivered in the playoffs. So, and then I think Elf Owls has just been kind of looking absolutely unstoppable in his conference. So it'll be good to see how that match goes.
Yep, and I just realized that I spoiled that other match, so now I'm gonna have to like wait a couple days between uploading these videos, which I intended to upload together. So that's fun.
Yeah.
All right, well, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and well, come join me next time for the championship match. See you then.